Ticketmaster is the devil and it must be destroyed. Hi, today is November 20th, 2022, and in case you didn't know, my name is Lisa. And if you're interested in weight loss and self-improvement, please like and subscribe. Quick update, I am almost 40 pounds lost. I have less than 1 pound to go, and I'm really close, and I'm hoping I'll get there before Thanksgiving. So let's talk about the horrendous shit show that is Ticketmaster. Full disclosure, in case you hadn't already figured it out, I am a fan of Taylor Swift. I am what they call a Swiftie. I've been a fan of Taylor Swift ever since the Red era, when she came out with that album. I think I really liked We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, but it was when I heard All Too Well that I was fully on board. And I know a lot of people are being like, well, you're not a true Swiftie because you weren't on board during Fearless or Speak Now. Like, don't get me wrong, I like those albums, but I wasn't like fully committed until the Red era. Unfortunately, at the time of Red in 1989, I was living in Japan, so I wasn't really able to go to any of those concerts. I wasn't living in an area where those concerts were taking place, and then I also sometimes wasn't even in the country when they did come to Tokyo. I know 1989, I think the world tour kicked off in Tokyo, and I just happened to be in Korea that weekend. I was so upset. But I did go to the Reputation concert in Detroit, and that was just fantastic. So that experience of getting tickets was actually pretty smooth, and I just kind of naively thought that this one would go just as smooth as Reputation, because like with Reputation you did all these like different tasks, and I'll talk about that more later, but you got basically assigned a time and a day that you could come and buy tickets. And so when I got in there, I got really good tickets. I got lower bowl like section in the 100s, right in front of the stage, so it was a little bit up, but I could see the entire stage like dead on straight ahead, and it was just one of the best concerts I've been to. And I just thought like it was a given I was gonna go for the Eras tour, which I think a lot of Swifties thought this same thing. And a lot of people are like, why are we still talking about this? There's more important things in the world. Well, yeah, technically, yeah, there's more important things in the world. But this is still a really upsetting experience for a lot of people. And I'm going to detail why that is and why it's an issue and why we need to start enforcing our monopoly laws. So the ticket sales were on the middle of the day on a Tuesday. The ticket's supposed to open at 10 a.m. your venue's time. And so obviously I have work during that day, but I was able to schedule my work in such a way that I was doing paperwork for the 3 hours, 30 minutes before the start of ticket sales and after the tickets went on sale. So what I was going to do was I'll do paperwork, and then when I finally got through the queue, when I was able to buy tickets, I would start my break so I wasn't like, stealing from my company or whatever. But so I get in there. Everything starts acting kind of weird. So like, first of all, I can't get into the waiting room. And I'm like, well, this is weird. What's going on? It refreshes eventually, and I am in the waiting room, and it's like, you're in line to enter the queue, whatever. And it's a countdown to when the queue starts. And I'm pretty excited because I was like, not only did I get verified fan, not only did I make it to the pre-sale, but I also got a boost. I got a just like one of those regular boosts. Now, I didn't have a Loverfest boost because I wasn't able to go like buy a ticket for that concert. I knew I wasn't not going to be available during the times that they were being held. But so I didn't have that boost, but I know a lot of people did. So I kind of thought like, oh, I'm going to be in the upper part of the line, just like I was last time. I think I was top 1 or 2% last time for Reputation. So I got in like right away. And so I get in there and it says 2,000 plus. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what that means. I start like looking on Twitter. I'm like, what does 2,000 plus mean? What is this? And then people are like, no, there's a way you can check what number you are in line. So people were coming back as like 26,000 in line and 10,000 in line. I'm like, oh geez, I could be like anywhere. I didn't actually check, but I waited about 40 minutes. So I must have not have been too high. I waited about 40 minutes. And I got in, and I had read ahead of time that some people's codes were not working, because you were given an access code for pre-sale. So I'd read that people's codes weren't working, and I was like, oh, geez, I hope that doesn't happen to me. Get in there, select my seats, go to put in the code, and of course it says your code's invalid. I am just like, oh, I'm so angry at this point, because I don't know what to do. Like, what do you do in this like circumstance? There was plenty of seats left. I could have gotten like lower bowl seats. I could have gotten floor seats. things were still affordable at this point. I think the lower bowl seats I was trying to get were like in the 200s range or something. And that's definitely in my price range for tickets. And, but then eventually it kicks me out because it's like you've had like too many attempts or something, or you're not properly signed in. I think that's what it said. It's like, you're not properly signed in. Well, obviously I was signed in. I made it into the queue somehow. And I only have one Ticketmaster account, so this can't be the issue. Anyway, it kicks me out, goes to the back of the line. And by the time I get back in again, which is over an hour later, the only tickets that are on sale are these floor seats that are VIP for $800. And once you calculate in taxes and fees, that's going to be over an $1,000 ticket. And I didn't want to go by myself either. I mean, like, I didn't want to pay for a $1,000 ticket for one, but I also didn't want to buy two of them because I wasn't going to go by myself to this concert. I was going to bring a friend. And so I just like have to make the decision to leave and be like, okay, well, I guess I'll try again during the general sale. I know that's going to be impossible, but I can't afford these tickets. And I got off and I was just so angry. I was like, how could they mess up this bad? And they're using the excuse of like, oh, we had all these bot attacks. And oh, there are so many more people who showed up than we thought were going to show up. And it's like they skipped all the really easy steps too, to make sure like these things wouldn't happen, like put in your code before you get into the queue, before you get on. And imagine like if they were doing that and people were putting in their code to get into the waiting room, and that's when they figured out the codes weren't working, they could have postponed everything right then because they would have known there was an issue prior to everything going ahead. But no, that's not what they did. They just held it as normal, and then they're like, too bad, so sad. They held the Capital One pre-sale, which I wasn't a part of, and it was same things happened. Too bad, so sad. And then they canceled the general sale because insufficient inventory. Well, yeah, because when a bunch of bots and scammers get onto your website, buy up all the tickets, and then try to resell them for $30,000, yes, there's going to be insufficient inventory. Not to mention that there was a weird thing going on with the boost system. There was just way too many people who had boosts who were at the back of the line, and people who did not have boosts at all and just like very recently became verified fans who somehow ended up at the front of the line. That's weird. I totally believe the conspiracy theory of people saying that they identified the Taylor Swift fans that way, wanted them to buy the expensive tickets, and so put them at the back of the line to make sure those are the only options they had. I mean, why not, right? Because they said it was going to affect your placement in line, but they didn't really say how. I mean, I feel the worst for the Loverfest ticket holders who said they were being given priority, and then Ticketmaster took that back and said, oh, it's just misinformation. It's like, well, you said it. So are you just misinforming us on purpose? And that's where this like legal stuff, I believe, comes in. They make you sign, you have to like check off like, oh, I won't, sue Ticketmaster, whatever. But that doesn't really apply when they're actually breaking the trust of their consumers. Like you can't just say, you won't sue me, and then you punch someone in the face, and you're like, well, now you can't sue me because you signed this piece of paper saying that you wouldn't sue me, punch you in the face. And it's like, well, that's not how things work. If you actually, do break parts of the law, you have to be held accountable for it. And so let's talk about some of the, first we're going to talk about some of the myths that are going on here that I want to dispel. And then we're going to talk about how Ticketmaster could potentially be breaking the law. And obviously, I'm not a lawyer. This is just stuff I read on the internet, but it sounds pretty legit. There's a history of this stuff going on in the country over the years. So anyways, I did have one friend who was, he was talking about, he's like, I don't get it. It's, of course a Taylor Swift concert would sell out. And I'm like, yes, but that's not the issue. Because if we had a fair shot at it and tickets sold out, people would be upset, but they wouldn't be raging and angry as they are now. No, that's not the issue. The issue is the whole thing felt like a scam. It felt like a scam to get as many people in as possible to drive up the prices as much as possible. And yeah, they didn't technically use dynamic pricing, but they were making sure that those Taylor Swift fans would panic buy and buy those VIP tickets. They were making sure that those Taylor Swift fans would panic buy and buy reseller tickets that are astronomically expensive. Because Ticketmaster owns some of those resale sites. And so they're going to get a cut of the profits of the resellers. It's just a really scammy and scummy way of getting around them not being able to sell Taylor Swift tickets for $10,000 themselves. Because Taylor Swift would never allow that. So let's compare it a little bit to the Reputation Tour and how that system worked. So when I did the Reputation Tour pre-sale stuff, You had to register on a Taylor Swift website as a fan, and you had to get certain boosts. So if you bought merchandise, you got a boost. If you bought a certain amount of albums, you got a boost. If you watched music videos every day, you got a boost. If you shared or for your friends, you got a boost. If you shared things on Twitter and social media, you got boosts. And I did all of that. I think like I said, I was top like 1 or 2%, and I think I was getting day 2 sales of the pre-sales in the morning. And so I logged on during my time, and it gave me like this little window of time I could log on to get tickets, and everything just worked out. It was really smooth. It was awesome. Best concert ever. But they didn't do that this time. And from what I've heard through the grapevine is that Ticketmaster wouldn't let her, or her record company wouldn't let her. We don't really know. I think, say what you want about Taylor Swift. Say she's a narcissist. Say she's all these different things. When it comes down to it, the most important thing to her is she liked by her fans right now, or is she not liked by her fans right now? Taylor Swift always wants to be in a position where she's liked by her fans. They're very important to her self-esteem and to the way that she views herself. Is she being liked by the right people? And you can call that a problem, you cannot call that a problem. I don't think it's hurting anybody. And obviously, this issue, I think, threatened her, the potential of some of her fans liking her. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with people being mad at her. But my point of saying this is, I don't think Taylor Swift was in on it because it goes directly against the thing that drives her, is her relationship with her fans. Why would she risk the relationship with her fans when that's like the most important thing to her? And I can only imagine how angry she is. Obviously, maybe like people are saying, well, maybe she's just sitting back and laughing at us. Well, I just don't think that, because nobody goes out of the way to host 500 people in their house and make them and let them listen to her album 6 months before it's released, right? That just doesn't happen with normal celebrities. So this comes back to anti-monopoly laws and how we think Ticketmaster is violating antitrust laws. So Ticketmaster owns like 70% of the ticket market as it stands, and they own a bunch of resellers. And for every time a ticket is flipped, they pretty much get a percentage of that flip. This is a problem because that means that Ticketmaster is not incentivized to improve their ticketing system. They're not incentivized to lower prices or negotiate with artists, because that means artists really can't tour in stadiums unless they give in to what Ticketmaster wants. And it kind of reminds me of the 90s when Microsoft was sued, because there was a time when, for example, Microsoft, it was like you could only use the Microsoft browser on Microsoft computers. You could only use the Microsoft word processor on Microsoft computers. Everything had to be Microsoft brand, and you were not allowed to use third-party things on the computer. So you had people who did not like Internet Explorer and wanted to use other things. Well, Microsoft would not give you a way to use other browsers on their computers. And they eventually got sued by the Department of Justice for violating antitrust with consumers, and they were additionally asked to force the breakup into separate companies. But what ended up happening was, after a few appeals, is that they agreed to make it easier for people to have other browsers and other apps and different kinds of non-Microsoft applications on their computers. And that's how they dealt with that issue. And I feel like in this case, they could do something similar where, Ticketmaster needs to break up with its resellers. They need to separate that. They can't also be in the business of primarily selling tickets and then reselling tickets. That's ridiculous. They need to probably break up who is selling at stadiums and who is selling at arenas. Because I don't know. I know they don't own all the arena contracts, but they probably own some of them. And definitely who's selling theaters as well. They need to make sure that that's separate. Because then, for example, Taylor Swift could do a stadium/arena tour, and she wouldn't have to contract with just Ticketmaster. She could contract with a couple different places, and then Ticketmaster would be incentivized to lower the prices because now they're competing with arenas. Does that make sense? And I have some friends who are like, no, we don't want to give the government more power. And I'm like, well, this is not about giving the government more power at all. This is about making the government enforce the laws that are already on the books. Clearly, this is an issue, and it needs to be resolved. And it's not just because I'm angry and people are like, there's more important things to worry about. Yes, but this will set a precedent in the future so that we are not taken advantage of. by other companies, by other corporations. Like, for example, my friend brought up Big Meat the other day. Well, most like meat suppliers are like owned by one giant conglomerate, and so that's why the price of meat is getting so expensive. And it'd just be easier if like local ranchers could compete with Big Meat and sell their stuff to the stores without having to go through different distribution centers, things like that. So just one domino in the chain will help affect many other things that we care about. That being said, even if it doesn't, this situation sucks. Nobody's happy about it. I should have been able to buy tickets. If I was in there on time in the queue and I selected the seats, I should have been able to buy those tickets. It should not have been an issue. It's a crappy system. I hope Taylor Swift sues them. Seriously. Maybe after the tour. Who knows? Anyways, I'm still angry. I'll admit I cried. It was awful. I know I'm laughing about it now, but I'm still upset. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. Please let me know what you think about this situation. What do you think can be done to improve it? And because honestly, I don't see any other way other than Ticketmaster cancels the reselling tickets. Like the ones selling cancels tickets being resold. Ticketmaster convinces Taylor to maybe do a second leg of her tour, and she makes them fix the pre-sale thing so that people who were on the wait list for codes, who had codes but couldn't use them, are able to get in and buy tickets at the very least, and give Loverfest people priority. Obviously, they should have been number 1 and 2 in the line. That was ridiculous that they weren't. Anyways, have a good day. Talk to you later. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.